Hello lovely beans, welcome to a new video. It's going to be a long one, so I'm going to get straight into it. I have this lovely peachy linen fabric for the apron here, and this is the plan I am going to go by. One rectangle, the width of the fabric, gathered down into the waistband for the apron skirt. One section for the bib, about 30 by 30 centimeters. And 4 strips to form the straps, waistband and ruffles. 2 strips 8 centimeters wide and 2 strips 6 centimeters wide. The length of the strips on this 150 centimeter wide fabric will be about 120 centimeters long. Now I made a critical error in thinking here. You'll see how that works out later on. I'm starting off by measuring my pieces on the grain. As you'll see, I make another error here, although not as grave as the first one. Here we are, measuring 90 centimeters instead of the intended 60. Why? Who knows? Panini brain. And at no point going forward do I realize how long this is really going to be. The markings here are for the double turned hem for a total of 2 centimeters. And I am back up at the top, placing the markers for the strips, initially marking 4 centimeters, but well, now that would be a bit too narrow, and I go up to 6. This also will sort of save me later on. Now I'm using a technique that works beautifully with the linen, thread pulling. It wasn't a very tight weave, so the pulling was a pretty quick affair and made cutting straight lines so much easier. I actually forgot to record how I got the bib out of the fabric. All I did was measure in 30 centimeters from the selvage edge and place a pin there. So I knew only to pull the weft thread to where the pin was, meeting the warp of the bib, and cut the thread at that intersection. And here is a close-up of the pulled threads where the weft meets the warp. The pulled warp thread is much more visible than the weft. Of course, being linen, all needs a good press before I continue. While I'm here at the ironing board, I will also prep the waistband and the straps by ironing them in half lengthwise. And then ironing the long sides towards that middle fold. Kind of like bias tape, but without the give. And here I am with the finished strap. Next is another thing I really like in linen fabric, which is the rolled hem. The first time I did this was on my linen shift, which I will link for you above. I roll down the hem very tight and very narrow, and the linen does kind of hold that shape relatively well, even on the straight of grain. So I roll down along the entire length of the top of the bib to have a bit of a guide, and then I can just fell all of that down into place with teeny tiny stitches. And here it is all done. Now I can carry on with the rest of the ruffles. So now that all the rolled hems are in, this also means that I do not have to fret about fraying. I can go and show you the rough idea of how this is going to come together. Bib, ruffles, waistband and straps, and then the skirt of the apron, which will be gathered right down, as will the bib. Another thing that you will see twice here today. But before I do anything, I am going to hem the skirt. I did try a mitered corner at the bottom edge, but with not a whole lot of success, so I'm not showing you that process here. I'll have to practice that a little more. For the gathers in the skirt at the waist, I divided the length into quarters to make it more manageable, simply by folding it down and marking with pins. So I can just whack in 2 lines of gathering stitches between every 2 pins. Let me just do that real quick. And by the power of editing, here I am again with all of the gathering threads and can now commence the gathering. Of 150 centimeters length of fabric into a 50 centimeter width of waist. Good luck to me. Oh gosh, I really can't wait to move. The plan is to have a gaming room for my partner and a sewing/crafting room for me, where I can have a work table that is a reasonable height so I do not have to hunch over and cause myself backache. One can dream. Okay, so here I'm just basting the gathers to the waistband, pinning the waistband shut after I removed the gathering stitches, and top stitch over the top and bottom edge of the waistband. And this is where I realize how long the apron skirt actually is. Technically, I could have stopped here and called it a day, but I did want to go ahead and add the bib and shoulder straps. Now for the bib, I put in gathers in the ruffles on the long sides and a small section on the bib itself to help ease it over the chesticles, as it were. And I will now commence to pin everything together. I start by pinning the lower part of the bib to the strap, right side facing upwards, and pin the part above the gathers a little bit lower than where it would naturally end to have the space to gather into. I then gather the gather together and proceed to pin the hell out of it. And then I pretty much did the same thing with the ruffles, with the right side of the ruffle facing the right side of the bib, using all of the available pins. And just like that, I have basted everything together. Now I can take out the gathering threads, pin the strap shut, and then also top stitch this over both edges. Here it is, all sewn down nice and neat, and I can now remove the basting and show you what it will look like when it's finished, or an approximation of that anyway. with a visiting rainbow. There's the rainbow maker. But now to fell down the straps on the inside with the teeny tiniest of felling stitches. Next, I'm attaching the bib to the waistband. I found the middle of the bib and the middle of the waistband and pinned them together, and measured the sides about 2 centimeters shorter than the width of the bib. Again, this kind of turned out unsatisfactory. I then whipped the bib edge to the lower edge of the waistband and secured the upper edge with a backstitch. And lastly, I turned under and machine stitched over the ends of the waistband to form loops to feed the shoulder straps through. And here is the finished apron, complete with cat hair. It doesn't sit right across the top, the straps are too short and the skirt is just a bit too long. So it's back to the chopping block. I've detached the skirt and put in gathering threads at the bottom of the bib, and this time the ruffles as well. With that curve in the gather, the middle section of the bib will pull down a little bit and make the top lay nicer across the chest, and the ruffles also have a little bit more shape to them. I'll also cut the straps and make some new ones to fit in there, cut from the bottom edge of the skirt to make the straps longer and the skirt shorter. Right, here are the strips, now 4 centimeters wide, which will actually be helpful in inserting them into the old ones, which are slightly wider. Folding these in half, top stitching and then turning right side out using a safety pin. I then ironed the straps flat and top stitched the edge just to secure the seam. To attach the new straps, I took out a length of top stitching on the old ones, sliced that off, clipped out a little bit of the inner fold, folded over the raw edge and stuffed the new strap inside, and then secured with a bunch of top stitching. And now we come to the bib. Same as before, I pinned the middles together, but this time I went a good bit narrower in the width than on the previous version. Pinned down the sides, gathered down the excess, judged it around a fair point, pinned everything into oblivion again, and then my camera decided it was time for bed. But it was basically just the same method as before. I basted down the gathers, took out the gathering threads, whipped down the bottom edge to the bottom edge of the waistband and backstitched the top edge, all invisible, and also gathered down and whipped down the ruffles on the sides. And this time it did turn out rather cute. So after all that nonsense, without having a clear plan from the start, I do hope you enjoyed this process and can maybe at least see it as a cautionary tale. If you liked the video, do please hit the thumbs up button below to let me know you did, and feel free to share this with your friends. If you aren't subscribed yet, it would be fantastic if you could hit the subscribe button down below. That would really help out the channel. That is all for now. Wherever you are, have a lovely day, and I will see you in my next video.